Milwaukee firefighters responded to nearly 8,400 fire events in 2002, another 6,000 false alarms. Emergency medical service calls total nearly 47,000, nearly 80% of all requests to the fire department. In an effort to reduce all those numbers, the Milwaukee Fire Department will continue to be aggressive in fire prevention with citizen information and education programs. The new chief says the priority remains saving lives and saving property. Willam Wentlandt Jr. was sworn in last November for a 4-year term as Milwaukee's new fire chief. He was chosen from among 17 who applied for the position.
It is truly an honor and a privilege to accept this position of fire chief in the city of Milwaukee, and I am very proud to have taken that office. I know the commission faced a very challenging task. I know they were challenged to sort through a group of candidates, my colleagues who are all very dedicated, whose talents and qualifications are very significant. I know I'm fortunate now to call upon those people as part of the management team. At this time of transition to a new leadership team, it is important to recognize the leaders who have come before us. Chief Gardner, Chief Michalowski, Chief Jackson, Chief Erdman. They certainly, with their vision and outstanding leadership, paved the way, made significant and valuable contributions to this organization. Today, it's my honor to identify the next part of our team. My recommendation for Assistant Chief will be Mark Sane, Battalion Chief of the Milwaukee Fire Department. Mark, where you at? Now, Mark knows the task ahead of us could be challenging, but we're up for that task. Together, Mark and I hopefully will refine our organizational culture to better serve our citizens and our community, enhancing the quality of life in all of our neighborhoods. Our focus is to be prepared to respond to the changing threats to our society and the city of Milwaukee. We will partner with the Fire and Police Commission to recruit our best, brightest, and most talented citizens to be part of the Milwaukee Fire Department. Working towards this goal, our organization will reflect our community, which is very diverse and celebrates the various lifestyles that people choose, our ethnic and racial diversity. We will invest in our members. We will ensure that our members are prepared and have the resources available to them to respond to the hazards that we know and those that we have not yet met. We will stimulate our organizational climate to make the word customer part of our fire department culture. We will reaffirm our commitment to meet the needs of our customers, providing them with quality service at an affordable cost. This is our vision, our mission. Together, with every member of the fire department, we look forward to meeting this challenge. Thank you.
Our look at the Milwaukee Fire Department continues now with Milwaukee's new fire chief, Willam Wentlandt Jr., and Assistant Chief Mark Sane. And welcome both of you to our program.
Pleasure to be
Congratulations, first of all.
Thanks, Tom.
And as many people do in a job interview, and we'd like to find out about the person we're talking to, let's tell us a little bit about your background, first of all. I believe both of you had about 22 years of service in the department, so perhaps a little bit about what you were doing before you became chief.
I was a battalion chief in the Milwaukee Fire Department, assigned to a battalion on the near south side, which involved commanding a geographical area about 1/6 the size of the city of Milwaukee. And I was responsible, as was Mark, with responding to events on a day-to-day basis in that area and help mitigate those events. Had the opportunity to lead a group of firefighters in that area involving about 6 different firehouses. And it's a very rewarding experience working at that level.
Yeah,
I was also a battalion chief working on the city's north side, similar to Chief Wentlandt, working with a fine group of men and women. Main responsibilities were fire suppression as well as emergency medical skills. And it was very rewarding, representing those individuals, and just making sure that they were handling the job that they were empowered to do, and making sure they were doing it safely.
As I have mentioned, and I think both of you have mentioned, you are both planning to be very aggressive in fire education, fire prevention. We'll talk perhaps a little bit more about some specific programs later, but in general, how important is the education and prevention effort?
The statistics have shown that when you make an effort for fire prevention and education and community, that it pays dividends, and those dividends are real. It's obviously the loss of life and the loss of valued property in our community. And Milwaukee has enjoyed a significant gain as far as reducing fire fatalities in our community. And that started over 17 years ago, where the community embraced an idea of education as far as firefighter safety, the safety of our citizens, and we embraced the Milwaukee public school system at the time to make that curriculum of fire safety part of our children's education. And it was supplemented by firefighters who physically were out in our community and continue to do that today, going door to door and being very visible and getting that fire safety message out.
Chief Zane, you were involved with fire education for quite some time.
Yeah, for many years I was involved as the Director of Fire Education out at our fire academy, and our charge was to make Milwaukee a fire-safe city. And in doing so, we've had two major programs, our focus program as well as our Survive Alive house that were created back in 1991. And those two programs had made significant gains in reducing the loss of lives and property in the city. As far as, like the chief mentioned, going door to door, installing smoke detectors, and having children of targeted ages coming to our Survive Alive house and learning, how important it is to exit your home in the event that there's a fire, as well as what matches and lighters can do if you play with them in your home. So you've seen those averages come down by our department's involvement, the firefighters out there, working with people, educating people, and we've seen those numbers go down, and we're very proud of that.
As long as you're talking about that, part of the focus program, as I understand this year, will be to talk about rear address numbers as well, addresses in the rear of homes and garages, and firefighters will be doing that as well this year.
Yeah, sometimes it's very difficult for us to identify, where we are, particularly if we have an incident and, we're calling for help and trying to get our people who are responding with us to have an idea of where we are on the block in the city. So by going out, installing addresses on these garages will help us to, pinpoint where we are. And it also helps us in our report writing in the event that, we have a fire in the alley and we need to identify where we are for our report writing purposes. It gives us an idea of passing that information on to our dispatchers, who can in turn pass it on to other responding units, or when we get back to quarters and we have to generate that report, they can give it to us off of our computer system as well.
Chief Wentlandt, I'd like to follow up on a couple things you said in your after your swearing-in ceremony, and we've seen some of that here in the program. One of the comments you made was to refine the organizational structure to better serve the citizens of Milwaukee, and you called them your customers. What did you mean by that?
Well, the fire department, we really are a customer-driven organization, but we don't really chat in those terms, Tom, historically. And it's a compliment to our firefighters, the men and women that are out there every single day, over 60,000 times a year, that we have contact literally every hour of every day with a citizen in the city of Milwaukee. And all we want to do is to formalize that relationship where firefighters have been historically always giving that highest level of care possible, a very professional manner, and looking at those individuals as customers. And bringing in that customer philosophy is important, because it allows us then to go beyond what we're doing so well every day and trying to strengthen that relationship with our community, with our customers, to better define what their real needs are, to better define what challenges our citizens in our community face, and taking more of a customer-based approach to satisfy those needs.
With a customer, you have a business, and I notice on your biography you have an MBA. Does that help you in taking over this department?
Education in the fire service is looked upon as important and significant, not only as a chief of the organization, but as a brand new employee. And what we enjoy is that as the application process comes along for the city of Milwaukee, for the fire department, that our citizens step forward from all walks of life from throughout our community with a real broad background in their educational levels. And that allows us to bring in people to our organization who are truly assets in a short amount of time. Education is always going to be an important part to the fire service. We've really made a significant transition in the fire service over the last 15 or 20 years, not only with formal education, but probably more importantly, being responsive to technical training and specific utilization of knowledge and experience that is unique to the responses that we go on.
Another thing that you said was to focus on being prepared to respond to changing threats in our society, whether they are known or unknown. A lot of people, I think, understand what that means, but what were you thinking of?
Tom, quite simply, what happens in any community is that when a critical event occurs, something happens in the community, at your house, in the neighborhood, on the street, the response is by a citizen is to call the fire department for help. And we want to make sure that the organization, the fire department, our members who are really dedicated, they want to make sure that they're prepared, that regardless what incident, and the ones currently in our society, we're looking at bioterrorism responses and chemical responses, things of that nature, but really taking a step back and ensuring that our organization has the best qualified people, the best trained personnel. We know that dedication is there, we know that commitment is there, we know that high level of professionalism is there with our members already, but we just want to ensure that when people call for help that we can provide service for regardless what that type is.
And one other follow-up comment from your comments at the swearing-in ceremony, a goal to have the department reflect our community.
I think that's a value, and it's significant to be outspoken on that topic. Milwaukee is an outstanding community. It's a great place to live, and we have just a tremendous value in the people that live in our community, and we should really celebrate that. And part of that recognition tells me as an administrator in the city that the firefighters that work every day are valued by members in our community. And we have an obligation for our organization to represent the community that we serve. That's a reasonable goal. It's something that we want to be involved with, and we're going to partner with the Fire and Police Commission to try to further that goal.
Getting that diverse force, as you mentioned, is responsibility of the Fire and Police Commission. Although firefighters are employees of the fire department, it's the commission that handles the hiring. And that's coming up soon, isn't it? There's going to be an application process.
Yeah, there's a application process coming up in the month of March, from March 3rd through March 8th. The commission is working with us to get qualified people looking at firefighting as a career. And we're utilizing some of our firefighters who have a vast knowledge of what it takes to become a firefighter, getting those individuals out there and sharing that information with people who are looking at a career in the fire service. We can answer a lot of questions that they may have, what the entrance exam is going to be like, what the other components of the testing process are going to be, and we can help those people to help themselves in their task to become firefighters.
We have a written, we have an oral, we have a physical portion of the application process. Can you tell me a little bit about the physical part, I think, which maybe would concern most people?
Well, the physical part is what we call our physical ability test. There's some dynamic skills that the person is going to be judged with, and that's a pass-fail test. They're going to be asked to climb up a ladder. While they're climbing up that ladder, they're going to have on a firefighting coat and a simulated tank, and they're going to climb up a cat ladder, which is going to be about 2 to 3 stories off the ground. They're going to come down a fire escape, and as soon as they hit the ground, the time starts, where at that point they're going to have to run over, grab a 200-foot section of hose, pull it out completely. From that point, they're going to go over to a simulated chopping area. They're going to have to chop so many times at that point. Moving on from there, they're going to have to go over to a pike pole area where they're going to have to use a long pole with a hook on it, and they're going to have to tap that so many times, run from that point, go over to a ground ladder that's on a hanger, take it off, put it on the ground, put it back up, and from that point they're going to have to go over to a obstacle course, which is set up by tables, take a mannequin off the table onto the ground, pull them through the obstacle course. Once they get to the end, pick that mannequin up, put them on the table, and then run to the finish line. So it's important for a person to be physically fit. It's also important that this individual is mindful of the time, because there's a certain time frame that they're going to have to meet, and that's going to dictate if they pass this portion of the test or if they fail this portion of the test.
The term is firefighter usually. It's firefighter EMT, I think, usually now, but we've seen that 80% of your calls are emergency or medical type calls. Firefighting is not for everyone, is it? Who is the person you're looking for here?
We're looking for the individuals primarily in our community in Milwaukee who are really dedicated to help others. And if they can go through those initial components, one of which Mark described, then we enjoy the opportunity. We put them in an environment, a learning environment, for over 4 months. And in that environment, we teach them very basic skills like team building. And in that environment, we try to create a position where they're motivated and they want to learn and they want to be part of serving the citizens of Milwaukee. And those things are attainable. You know, for the young man or young woman at home, they may look at a firefighter's task as challenging, and it is, but it is attainable. It is something that if I'm in good physical condition and I have some strong academic background, that we can take those best and brightest people throughout our community, get them to that training component, and allow them to be successful.
Another initiative that was talked about was recruiting individuals with roots in this community. I've heard that before. People go through the training academy, whether it be police or fire, and sometimes go elsewhere when they're done. Why is it important to keep people here?
It's important, Tom, because the people that grow up in Milwaukee and have a stake in Milwaukee, they've made an investment in our community. And the members of the Milwaukee Fire Department, every single one that you chat with will tell you that it's just so rewarding, especially if you're from this area, from this community, to be able to go through the process, become a firefighter, and go out and provide that medical care and save people's lives and save their property. And because we interact in areas of the city that we grew up in, we interact in areas of the city that we live in, the areas where our neighbors live, where people that we may go to church with happen to be in. And those paths cross a lot tighter than we realize when we're actually interacting in the community. And that's significant, and it really adds some value to our community when the stakeholders, those firefighters who are highly dedicated, have that chance now to give something back to their neighbors, their friends, and their fellow citizens.
We've talked a little bit about what firefighters are doing to respond to threats of the day. What about specifics within the special teams in the departments? Is there special training given not only to the individual firefighters, but members of, say, the HAZ-MAT team that we didn't see before?
Yeah, we're working with a lot of different agencies in and around the Milwaukee area. For example, Milwaukee County Emergency Government, we partnered up with them. And depending upon the needs of our community, be it from a HAZ-MAT level, from a dive rescue level to a hurt rescue level, we've partnered up with them to look at some of the situations that we may be confronted with as a department, and we work with our personnel to understand and recognize those types of incidents so we can help our citizens.
We've talked a little bit about. We mentioned the three main teams here. What kind of special training do these team members go through?
These are firefighters who are, we enjoy that everybody's dedicated and committed, and these are individuals that have a really special interest in a unique area of service for the community. And for instance, we have a heavy urban rescue team, and those are our members that we call upon when we have buildings that may have a partial collapse, or where we have to go into an environment that is restricted, a confined space area. And they go through extensive training, Tom. They go through a certification process. And in the area, in the metro Milwaukee area, the Milwaukee Fire Department enjoys specialized, trained people that can respond to what any large urban fire department could respond to. And we enjoy that as an advantage to the Milwaukee Fire Department, and we're looked upon not only within the region and metropolitan area, but from throughout the state and on a national level as having those highly qualified people that are prepared and trained and ready to respond.
How's the 911 system working out?
Excellent. It gives people a good opportunity to get help when help is needed. I mean, basically all you have to do is remember the 911 designation. You can call it from anywhere in Milwaukee County, give them a location, and they'll provide the service that you may be requesting, be it if it's a medical or fire type of an emergency. For us, from a 911 standpoint, our response times on average is anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes, and we'll be on scene to provide that service. So we found a lot of success with this program.
There's a lot of different ways of communicating now with emergency personnel, and a lot of the old fire alarm boxes are gone. Are there problems with false fire alarms these days? Is it as serious as it once was?
Tom, it's a challenge that we face that's ongoing as far as the system in the organization, is that some people legitimately make calls that they're concerned about something going on in the community, and it turns out to be a false alarm. And we never want to discourage a citizen from having a concern and not calling. You know, it's okay to call the Milwaukee Fire Department. Our concern is that if there's abuse to the system, whether it's the 911 system or just a individual calling directly, that citizens realize that if they do that, if they take that action where they call in a false alarm, it takes resources away from their neighbors, from their family members, from people in our community. When we have to dedicate a piece of equipment to that run, that takes away that opportunity for us to be somewhere else to help a citizen.
We've talked about firefighters being EMTs, and there are paramedics, and one of the initiatives of the department, again, is more advanced life support kind of training or systems in place. What specifically are you looking at in that area?
We're dedicated to making sure that in the fire service profession, which has a huge component which is medical related, that we have the highest qualified people on the apparatus that physically go to somebody's house in our community. And that level of preparedness is just a dedicated commitment, part of the Milwaukee Fire Department, that regardless where you are in our community, that if a medical event occurs, that those resources, that fire engine or their paramedic units, when they arrive on scene, those people taking care of your family members and your friends are the highest qualified, highest trained possible people to provide that service.
We've talked about the application process here and some information to anyone who might want to be a firefighter or look into the business. Is it possible just to stop at a station and drop in, talk to a firefighter about what the job is like?
Sure. These individuals are the ones who are doing the job daily. They have the knowledge, they have the background, they know what levels that they had to push themselves to become a firefighter, and they can talk about their successes. So we would definitely encourage people to, if they have an opportunity to talk to the firefighter, stop by a firehouse. If you see a firefighter, on the street, and if it looks like the situation is there, to talk to them and see, what did it take for them to become a firefighter. And we're encouraging everybody to apply, be it men, women. We want our department to reflect the city of Milwaukee, and everybody should feel, if this is a career that they want to be involved in, that they should be able to ask those questions to the firefighters in their neighborhoods.
The goal, as you've mentioned, the mayor has mentioned, 0 fire fatalities. Quite a goal if it can be achieved. How possible is that, do you think?
What's the next step, Tom? The next step is we have a core of people, our firefighters, who are really dedicated to that mission. They want to see fire fatalities to remain very low and eventually go down to 0. And the likelihood of that happening is high. Unfortunately, there's some things that are not within the control of the fire departments, and our best efforts, obviously, this past year we still had 6 fatalities. The Milwaukee Fire Department is committed, though, to being creative, to being innovative, to find ways to make sure that our message is getting out to truly make Milwaukee a very fire-safe city. And as you mentioned early on, in last year's statistical reports, we found that in cities our size, that Milwaukee was again a leader in fire fatalities as far as the number of 6 in the nation. And that's significant, Tom. That really is. That really adds some value to the community. It tells citizens that if you work as a partner with the fire department, if you make that commitment to making yourselves fire safe, that together we can achieve that goal eventually of not having a single fatality.
Let's hope so. We wish you success in that endeavor.
All right.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tom. Thanks.